Look, let's talk about migration. You've announced Reform's migration plan. We know well, as you just alluded to, it worked very well here in Australia under former Prime Minister Tony Abbott's Stop the Boats plan. It was highly successful. Have you looked at Australians' Operation Sovereign Borders to form your own policy on stopping the boats?
Partly, yes. Partly, yes. I think, the declaration on Australia that nobody that comes via this route will ever get refugee status. And then, of course, you simply towed the boats back to the 12-mile line with Indonesia. Yes, what we look at is the way that Abbott did it, the way that he was prepared to face down the condemnation of the United Nations, the European Union, the British government. He faced them all down, and within 2 weeks of putting that into place, the boats stopped coming. So I tell you what, for all of us in Britain who think this should be dealt with, Tony Abbott is a hero figure.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, he did it here in Australia. It worked so well, and it's a pretty simple policy, and it's just a no-nonsense policy. Now, look, let's talk about migration. I was interested in what you said before, because we've been having our own migration issues. We've got thousands of people taking to the streets to protest at Labor here, their immigration policies. It's an open door policy. It's not racist to fly the Australian flag or be worried about immigration, but yet when you have this discussion, you're called a racist, you're called a xenophobe. What's the situation over there? Do you feel like people are still worried to have the conversation?
No, we're winning the argument back. For years, that's what's been said. And that's why the British Conservative Party, in cowardice, flinched away from all of it. No, I think myself and a handful of others have made this now a majority mainstream opinion that nobody is afraid to say. And for example, 10 years ago, I said, well, actually, is mass migration really making us richer? I mean, honestly, the howls of condemnation. Now we know mass migration makes all of us poorer. So we are winning these arguments, but you only win arguments if you've got political leaders with the courage to stand up, to say the right thing, and to encourage the public to open their minds.
And do you think that the protests over the asylum seeker hotels have spurred it on? Because it seems the UK has had anti-migration protests as well, Nigel. Everyday Britons are generally very worried.
Well, you should be worried. I mean, when an Afghan male is 22 times more likely to be convicted of rape than a British-born person, don't you think that mums, grandmums, concerned people living near those hotels have every right to go out and peacefully protest? And as the evidence grows, we come to realise this is not about race, but it is about culture. And a lot of these young men crossing the Channel are coming from countries in which women are not even regarded as second-class citizens. That is the brutal truth of it. And frankly, the vast majority of British people have simply had enough. They want our streets and our country to be safer.
Yeah, and I think you raise a really good point. This has absolutely nothing to do with race. And this is where the left in particular always muddle this complete narrative. It's got nothing to do with race. It's not racist to have a discussion about this. It's just, it's extraordinary. Now, look, I want to get your reaction to this. The French Prime Minister, Francois Bayrou, has lost a confidence vote of MPs, ending his 9 months in office during a period of chaos in the country's parliament and the National Assembly. Now, he was the fourth Prime Minister in 2 years under President Emmanuel Macron, whose second term in office has really been overshadowed by political instability. What do you make of this mess in France, Nigel?
It feels a bit like the 1780s, where Louis XVI had lost control completely of the French government and the French economy, and they had a revolution. Now, I'm not wishing a horrible revolution on the French, but the country now appears to be ungovernable. You have a complete lame duck president in Monsieur Macron, and France is going through the most bizarre debate. They want to keep retirement ages at 62. Some leading French politicians want to bring the retirement age down to 60, and they wonder why they're going bust. No, France, I tell you what, France is economically, societally, politically in even more trouble than the good old UK.
Oh, I mean, who would have thought that would happen? But, you know, it's interesting, Nigel, because I was reading, I think it was in the New York Times, they say that there's been a real wave of, I guess, right-wing governments, that people are now starting to wake up to this mess. And France, I mean, you know, Emmanuel Macron is as woke as they come. But I just wonder, is there a wave? Is there a wave taking over the world? And look at you, look how well you're doing.
Oh, look at Meloni. Look at Giorgia Meloni. She became the Prime Minister of Italy. Everyone said, oh, my goodness me, it's back to the days of Mussolini. It's all going to be a disaster. Well, hang on. She's now a very credible, very respectable world leader who's done the impossible of bringing stability to Italian politics. Look at Argentina. He may be having a tough week this week, but Milei actually has begun to stop the rot that's infected the Argentinian economy literally for decades. So there is a very, very big political shift going on. It just seems at the moment that Australia hasn't quite caught up with the main party.
Oh, no, unfortunately we haven't, Nigel. It's a real shame what's going on out down under. Nigel Farage, nice to catch up. Thanks so much for joining me on the show. Really appreciate it.